to wreak havoc on the global economy. Businesses, especially small and medium-sized enterprises, are feeling the biggest pinch. A staggering 93% of businesses stated that they will not survive the lockdown if it continues for more than 3 months. SMEs are being forced to adapt quickly to the new normal, and experts believe that technology will help businesses to stay afloat. Well, to find out how, I'm joined by Dumisani Moyo, the head of mid-market for Southern Africa at SAP. Dumisani, good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Sure. I mean, the ability to adapt and very quickly to the new normal can be the difference between survival and a complete disaster for many SMEs, right? How then can technology assist with being resilient during this time?
I think there's a range of interventions that SMEs can put in place to try and deal with COVID. But technology is undoubtedly one of the best responses to COVID. And I think in particular, the ability to manage the business efficiently, as well as the ability to plan effectively. So I think there's a range of technology solutions that speak to planning and effective planning. One of the key ones is enterprise resource planning, or commonly referred to as ERP.
Well, how big a challenge would this be for SMEs, especially in South Africa? Because we know even before the lockdown, SMEs were already complaining about, the type of strict measures that have been put in place for them just to do business, the poor payment that they've had to deal with, and just other challenges that they've had to face becoming entrepreneurs in this country. So how challenging would that be then to now rely on technology to still survive?
I think the biggest challenge that SMEs felt was the fact that a lot of their operations are brick and mortar operations, or operations that rely on face-to-face contact. So with the lockdowns coming into effect, what that meant was a lot of SMEs were not able to trade. I mean, for example, if you think about when the lockdown came into effect, how many smaller businesses were able to move their businesses online so that they could continue trading during the lockdown. So the suggestion that I make on the article that you referred to is that leveraging technology makes it possible to quickly change direction and to quickly pivot the business and, for example, move the business online to continue trading during lockdown conditions as an example.
Sure. Dumisani, speak to us about the enterprise resource planning. What is the ERP solution?
So, I mean, simply put, an ERP solution allows companies to provide the right information to the right people at the right time. If you think about a typical company of any size, for that matter, for the business to function effectively, there's thousands of different processes that the business has to effect and run every day. Those include functions like HR, finance, logistics, procurement, customer relationship management, etc. So the ability to streamline, automate, and integrate these different pieces of information means that the business is able to make credible decisions and to get a holistic view on the health of the business just by looking at one pane of glass, for example. So what we're saying here is that the ability to streamline these processes drives efficiencies.
Yeah.
So an ERP system does exactly that. It allows a company to streamline processes.
Well, let's give our viewers as much information as possible, right? I understand there's 5 main benefits of this ERP solution. Can you take us through that?
I think the first benefit, as I've said, a company has to run multiple processes and multiple functions to operate effectively. So an ERP allows a company to have an integrated business management approach by streamlining, automating, and integrating processes to aid effective planning and drive efficiencies. The second one would speak to an ERP empowers a business to make decisions that are powered by predictive analytics. I mean, in the current situation that we find ourselves, the ability to make predictions about the future, whether it's supply and demand, whether it's how much materials are going to be required, where those materials are gonna come from, for example, is absolutely key. So the ability then to make predictive judgment about what you think is going to happen in the future is absolutely key. So an ERP allows a company to integrate its own information or data with external data sources to be in a position to predict and make credible decisions into the future. The other benefit speaks to improved governance, compliance, and data security. Arguably, after human resources, data is arguably the most important asset to any business. Therefore, steps need to be taken first and foremost to safeguard that data. But secondly, as well, this also speaks to the ability to comply with government regulations such as the protection of private information, or in a European context, GDPR as well. Another key benefit is the ability to access critical information. I mean, in our current state of lockdown, where no one is going to work or no one is allowed to go to work, for example, as we had on level 5, it's absolutely key to be able to access key information about the business, and also to be able to access that information from any device, from anywhere, at any time. That on its own is an important component of business continuity. I mean, I've only touched on the key sort of benefits. There's obviously a lot more others that we could get into and talk about.
And Dumisani, in your view, are there specific businesses that perhaps would not be able at all to rely on technology going forward?
I think there are businesses that would not be able to trade under lockdown conditions. I mean, for example, if you're running a hairdressing business, you wouldn't be able to do that remotely. But in that example I've just given, a hairdresser could be able to sell the products, hair products, that they would normally sell face-to-face to their customers after they've done their hair. They might be able to move that part of the business to an online platform and continue trading in that way. Granted, it's not 100% of the business, but they're able to continue some operation, which might mean the difference between surviving and shutting down.
Yeah, so it's really all about reimagining how you can do what you're supposed to be doing on a daily basis, right? As we close, Dumisani, your advice to entrepreneurs?
I think my advice is that first and foremost, digital transformation is a reality. A lot of big business already employ technology to drive efficiencies at great length. I don't see why SMEs shouldn't be also using technology to harness their operations. What has been a big roadblock in the past is the fact that technology can be costly, but with the advent of the cloud, SMEs are then able to consume services and pay those services as they consume them. It's pretty easy to implement these solutions, but more importantly, there's no upfront investment required. So same way that you would take out a cell phone contract and pay for it on a monthly basis, cloud services are able to be consumed and paid for as SMEs consume them.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. Dumisani Moyo, speaking to us about how technology can change the way you do your business and possibly save your small, medium enterprise business. Well, let's move on to this.